All right, what's good, y'all? The Solara's on jack stands. What a surprise. Not for anything crazy this time. A lot's happened since I last uploaded. I believe the last video I uploaded was about the fuel mod, I believe so. But since I last uploaded, I've completely rebuilt my main engine harness. You can ignore the knock sensors right there, it's a long story. But yeah, you see in here, it's all redone. I replaced every one of these little connectors up here because they were broken. I replaced the igniter connectors. I did all kinds of stuff, dude. I had, you know, the entire engine bay pretty much taken apart. I didn't film that because nobody wants to see me spending hours, you know, crimping together wires and all that kind of stuff. But I deleted a whole bunch of circuits that I wasn't using, you know, because all my EVAP and EGR stuff's gone. I rerouted a whole bunch of stuff so it looks a little bit cleaner under here. I was cleaning all that stuff up in preparation for new ECU. So I'll unlock the car. I was gonna upload a video about this, but I recorded a whole bunch of footage. It was trash. There was a bunch of wind noise. Video was crappy, so I decided not to upload it. But I got new ECU. I got some poly bushings for my engine mounts. This bushing here, which here's the part number. I'm not gonna sit here and try and, you know, gatekeep anything. You notice it's for an MR2. All right, so I have a spare axle carrier, which I gotta find. Where the fuck did my damn axle carrier go? So the axle carrier has walked off. Where did it go? All right, y'all, I had to voice over this part because I can't let something so wrong, you know, linger in the beginning of the video in case people are trying to copy. Long story short, Solaras have different mounts depending on if they're automatic or manual. The axle carrier in the video right now is the one off of the automatic. The automatic carriers have, you know, bigger inserts for the axles. The bushing that I showed you guys just now, that I just put back in that little box, is for the MR2, but it goes into the, it doesn't exactly fit perfectly into the manual axle carrier, but you have to machine it down a little bit. I'll explain a little bit more in the video later, I'm sure, but just know that these mounts are specific to either the automatic or the manual Solaras, and that goes for the Super Pro bushings as well. That little yellow bag right there, that's for the manual dog bone. All right. I am also getting ready to smoke test the exhaust. You can see here I've kind of got a little frustrated trying to seal off the exhaust tips. I've got little cup adapters or whatever on the way, which should be getting here tomorrow. I need to smoke test the exhaust. She's got a little bit of an exhaust leak, and I'm pretty sure I know exactly where I'm leaking from. All right, here we are a couple days later. See, I got some stuff here on the ground. Long story short, on the exhaust, which you can see I've got taken apart. No major damage. V-band didn't seal on the turbine housing, so that's cool. I'm at kind of a stopping point now. I've got the axle out. You can see the rear engine mount right there. Yeah, it's terrible. This is honestly the easiest I've ever had an axle come out. It took maybe 5 minutes. Obviously not to, you know, take all this apart, but in terms of like pulling it out, usually that bearing right there inside the axle carrier is like seized in. But I guess when your oil pan, you know, leaks on all that and the residual gets in there, it keeps it lubricated and doesn't seize up, so that's cool. That's why you should always keep an oil pan gasket leak. By the way, if you got a 1MZ, don't even think about fixing that leak because it's gonna come right back. But I got my front mount loosened up. I haven't loosened this one yet because I need to take the oil filter off. And my oil filter tool that I've used probably for like 4 years now finally decided to break. So I figured I'm at a good stopping point. I've got literally, you know, everything taken apart. Both axles are off. The machine shop was closed yesterday. That's when I was gonna go drop it off. Didn't know that they were closed on the weekends. Their hours said every day, which I shouldn't have trusted, but. Hey y'all, it was probably a good thing that the machine shop was closed because once again, that was the wrong mount and I would have had a lot of work done to that mount that I didn't need. which would have pissed me off, but it was a good thing because I took this bushing, the PowerFlex one, to the junkyard to measure the width of these bump stops, which I'll explain later in the video what they're for. Excuse the mess, but I went and measured out these bump stops. What? Back for a third time. I kind of rambled on about these. Long story short, the one on the left there is from, I believe, an Isuzu Rodeo, or if you pronounce it. The two on the right's from another Isuzu truck, or rather an SUV. I didn't use the two on the right, so just focus on the one on the left. All right, see ya. All right, it's been a few days. Come over here to the transmission mount, which I don't think I did a perfect job on this, but if you see in there, I did fill it with poly. Looks like garbage. That's why I'm not getting super close to it. But hopefully it does what it's supposed to do. Also got my mounts back. Now with this PowerFlex bushing, it's for an MR2 and it's slightly bigger. I mentioned in the video previously. No, I didn't. All that the machine shop had to do was bevel the inside. There's a little lip on the back side of each bushing. Just bevel that down. You beveled the bracket itself and just press it in and let the press do the rest. Now, funny story with the dog bone, you may notice this is a different dog bone. I had to take the bracket and the dog bone from the Lexus. You look in here at the Lexus, you'll see the Solara's dog bone and bracket on the mount. What, another appearance? Yeah, this is the part of the video where I was explaining the differences between the automatic and manual Solaras in terms of their engine mounts. Long story short, the 94 through 96 Camry came with the same dog bone that the first generation manual Solara came with. And I believe that's applicable to the ES300s and Avalon from the same years. I went to a junkyard looking for those and could not find one. I walked out, I was all pissed off because I'm like, man, now I'm gonna have to eBay it and wait another week or so, you know. But then I look at the Lexus and I'm like, oh, word, I already have the part. So I just swapped them over free of charge. The Lexus doesn't, you know, perform any different. The size difference on the dog bones is like maybe an inch in diameter on the engine side. So, oh, and I totally forgot to mention, you can tell the difference between the axle carriers on the automatic and manual Solaras because the manual ones are stamped with an M like I just showed in the video. All right, see ya. Now, what I'm gonna be doing with these bump stops is an old trick. The bump stop essentially goes in between the brackets for the rear motor mount, and then it sits underneath the motor mount to prevent it from like egging or whatever, and you know, really limit movement. It'll essentially make it feel like a solid setup. So the only thing that I have to do with these, and the reason that I bought two different ones, I already have this one kind of cut, but in case that's too low, I'll just, you know, remeasure with that one. But it's a lot of trial and error, and I got a cutting wheel. I really don't have a vise out here, so that's gonna be the focus for tonight. And if I get that done, then it'll be smooth sailing from there. I can put on all the mounts again and get on to the next part of what I'm doing out here. And that's just replacing my ball joints. And I also have this little quart gasket here. This will be my first time using a quart gasket any time at all on anything. All right, so this is another one of those teachable moments that I had to come back and correct myself on. The RTV that I was talking about at this moment in the video was from Permatex, which makes you wait like 24 hours and you know, you can't fill it with anything until that 24 hours is up. And you know, residual oil likes to seep down and you know, ruin the bond with that. I was advised after I ranted about it on my Instagram shortly after this video or this segment of the video was taken that I could just use 3-bond. You know, Toyota, Nissan, all of them, you know, the dealers, they have 3-bond labeled as their own brand for RTV, which seals and you're pretty much ready for fluids after like 2 to 4 hours. So yeah, 3-bond is the way to go. Also, spoiler alert, the quart gasket sucks. Don't use quart gaskets, they suck. All right, see ya. All right, it's the next day. Got the dog bone on. If you look down in here. So at this point, I might as well have just voiced over the entire video, but if you look there, you can see the bump stop sitting in between the subframe and the engine mount. And when I say sitting, I mean it is legit just sitting there. There's no bolts or anything holding it in place. The only thing keeping it where it's at is the incredible amount of pressure in between the subframe and the engine mount. And in order to achieve that, if you're going to replicate this, you have to cut the bump stop to a point where it's like too tall, and then you essentially just force everything together. Now the bracket holding the lower engine mount, you know, in its place can come off of the subframe. So you can kind of use that extra play, you know, to try and get that bolt through on the rear mount. But fair warning, this mod essentially turns that mount into a solid mount. Like there's gonna be no play in that whatsoever. So if you don't like having vibrations at idle, which aren't incredible, you know, they're not crazy vibrations, but if you're one of them people that are like super crazy about having a real comfortable ride and all that kind of stuff, and you're trying to replicate this, just know you're gonna be vibrating at idle. It's not crazy in my opinion, but apparently some people don't like it. So just fair warning. All right, see ya. The reason for the exhaust leak wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I thought maybe I had a V-band clamp go bad, you know, because at one point it was kind of bent a little bit, and I bent it back into shape, you know, with all the engine movement and whatnot, and how stiff the exhaust setup is. Mind you, it flexes. Of course it flexes, and, you know, flex pipe is down there, and the mount that the turbo sits on flexes as well. But I thought there was something wrong in here, which technically there was. There was excess rust buildup on the flange, on the turbine housing. So I just took a wire wheel to it, knocked all that rust off, got a nice smooth surface on the back side of it now. Hopefully she's nice and smooth enough to get a good seal. All right, y'all, it's been a few days. Got everything done. Totally forgot to document it yesterday. Well, I won't say everything. See here, I got some 3-bond from Toyota. That gasket that I used for the oil pan, trash. But that's okay, because we're about to redo everything. This weekend, I'm gonna go back up to Fort Worth because right now there's tension on my exhaust, and it's like pretty significant tension because, you know, everything got fabbed up with the crappy motor mounts. So now, you know what I'm saying, now that the engine and the transmission's position has changed significantly, the exhaust position has changed significantly as well. So everything fits. I not vacuum tested, but smoke tested it again. No leaks so far. I'm not gonna be driving this thing much until I get the exhaust, you know, fixed, and that'll be the final thing until this car should be good for quite some time. All right, y'all, figured I'd give y'all a little update while the car's warming up. I've driven it around for a couple days. The engine mounts are performing flawlessly. Everyone says that, oh, you do poly mounts and, you know, your car is gonna rumble and shake and rattle and blah, blah, blah when you're at idle. Dude, it's honestly not that bad. Yeah, okay, it rumbles a little bit, you know, but it's what you would expect from a street car. The exhaust leak fix lasted like 20 miles and it happened again, and it's honestly gotten worse. But there's a few remedies that I'm gonna try, you know, once that situation gets handled. But because of that, I'm not gonna really beat on the car in this video, show you guys like, you know, what it's doing and how it's performing since the new ECU. I put in my wastegate with a 5-pound spring on it, and she's only making about 3 pounds of boost. So I think I'm gonna put the 8-pound spring in, since right around 7 pounds is when she starts cutting fuel. It'll cut fuel a little bit, you know, right after 7 pounds, just to prevent it from creeping up too high. But I think the 8-pound spring will be perfect considering how she runs with the 5-pound spring. I'll show you guys the new ECU. It's a Nexus R3 from Haltech. I had to mount it in the glove box, a little bit different than my other one. Obviously my other one was just bouncing around in there, but $2,300 ECU, I don't think it should be bouncing around inside anything. Pause. If you notice on there, what, it's got a little Wi-Fi signal, so I can like put my computer right here, have it up, no wires, no nothing. I can have this closed and, you know, fiddle around with whatever's on there. But I really I don't touch anything. I had this installed in the car tuned at BW Tuning in Oklahoma City, and that guy's like a wizard with, you know, tuning and installations and wiring and stuff like that. So the only reason that I would have NSP open is if I need to check for, you know, any check engine lights, the car's running funny, if I need to take logs or something like that. That's the only time. I don't sit here and think that I'm sitting here like, oh man, the car's doing this at this RPM. Nah, hell no, bro. I'm not trying to get in trouble with my tuner, hell no. There's been a lot of people, you know, oh man, we got to find a tuner for the platform or whatever. You know, it's hard out there to find, you know, ECU, this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. BW Tuning in Oklahoma City is your one-stop shop. I live 5 hours away. I made the drive for it well worth it. I will say though, this car definitely runs a lot better now. A lot better. I won't get into the nitty gritty of how, you know, the car was running before, but long story short, the 750 that I had before was installed pretty much like halfway, and the tune on there was trash. Let's just be honest, it was a trash tune, dude. There's no reason why I should be at 12 pounds of boost running 10s, and it was honestly running less than 10 for AFRs. Like, that's insane. I care more about drivability than I do power and speed. And obviously you see the car's only making like, I think it's 269 horsepower. He turned boost down because, you know, it was running 12 pounds of boost before. I don't need to be running anything that high, especially on a junkyard motor, but he said this motor's performing pretty good. It's just a little loud at idle. Pretty sure I got like a shim or two out of spec. But I mean, what do you expect from a junkyard motor? But she's not burning oil. The thing that I can appreciate about this tune that I'm showing you right now, even with the exhaust leak, is I can feather tow it. You know, keep things under 2,000 RPM, and it runs smooth. Obviously, I'm not gonna roll all the way into fifth gear, 2,000 RPM, so I'd be doing 50 miles into 25 right now, but you guys get the point. The car is drivable, and that's what I wanted for now. I think it's one thing to tune a car to make power and do all this crazy shit at high RPMs, but I think the money's in the lower RPMs and being able to daily drive the car, and, you know, having something that's reliable, that's not gonna shit itself on the road because there was no care taken for lower RPM, you know, performance. The car is performing great. I just need to get this exhaust leak sorted out. Probably go back and throw just a little bit of a heavier spring on the wastegate. The car is exactly where I want it to be right now, minus the exhaust leak. Like I said, we're gonna take care of that, and I might post some like shorts or something. So yeah, I appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm gonna get this thing back into storage. It's gonna be my weekend car for a while until I can get the exhaust taken care of. And we're just gonna keep making slow progress and getting this car right and ready for hopefully 450 to 500 horsepower in the near future. So, like I said, appreciate y'all checking in, and we'll see y'all soon.